Ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha, and yes, I know that this report is a bit on the late side. Okay, it's extremely late, but if you've seen any of my recent videos, you understand why. However, as I did report on this particular topic initially, I felt it would be irresponsible of me to not follow through on its apparent conclusion. Back in early May of this year, Paradox Interactive had decided to increase the price of their games and DLC in multiple countries, in some areas as much as 30 to 40%. The stated reasons behind this was to adjust for the, quote, purchasing power of those countries' currency. And naturally, given the already extreme cost of their game's titanic libraries of DLC, Paradox Interactive's customers were decidedly less than thrilled. In reaction to this, the discussion threads turned decidedly negative, as well as the Steam reviews on the games themselves out of protest to Paradox's apparent cash grab over content that is years old in most instances. In response to this extremely negative backlash from the community, the CEO of Paradox Interactive, Frederick Wester, posted an announcement on June 22nd that was very much Paradox Interactive backpedaling on this price increase over the vast majority of their titles. In it, he had stated that the fans deserved more transparency and better communication from Paradox in regards to their prices and their pricing policy. Also, their rollback would not be possible without canceling the Steam sale discounts, so Paradox has decided to wait until after the sale and then process refunds to anyone still affected by those price increases. This, of course, will take Paradox a good amount of time to put all the information together, and it might not be possible in all cases, so they've also promised to provide as secondary avenues of refund games of equal or greater value, and if neither of those options are available to the customer, then they promise to donate double the value to the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, which is the UN Refugee Relief Fund, to protect and support refugees. This is an excellent move on the part of Fred Wester, and while ultimately this will result in a net loss of funds for Paradox Interactive, it's good that they recognize that their actions were ultimately anti-consumer and seeming to be a decision motivated out of greed more than anything else. However, their promised course of action, if carried out, would completely dispel the notion of monetary gain, as they will be operating under a loss for this action. Secondly, Wester continued to discuss the complaints surrounding their DLC policies, as the huge amount of paid DLC totals in hundreds of dollars for some games, and the costs of those DLC packages have never decreased over time. He makes no apology for their pricing decisions, despite their costs eventually becoming completely prohibitive for many potential customers. Of course, he does point out the fact that the DLC is not required to be able to play the game, which is, for the most part, correct. However, looking at the prices of these DLC packages, it makes me wonder why the prices on these have never come down. Now, while I do understand that the number of games they produce are comparatively small for their 225-person studio, and the vast majority of their income is generated by these DLC packages, which has become their standard business model, one typically sees game pricing on a sort of sliding scale. The more interest in a game or a piece of DLC drops over time, the more the price drops with it in order to stave off the loss of interest in order to help entice additional buyers. Now, I did mention in my previous video that I had never seen this sort of sliding scale not occur within a video game before, but what I did not say that I probably should have is that even though I haven't seen it, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It's akin to saying that you don't believe in the hydrogen atom just because you can't see it with the naked eye. Now, some games like Paradox Interactive's maintain a steady level of interest over time that they maintain with their DLC packages. I personally am of the school of thought that I would prefer to see more newer games with updated engines and mechanics over time, but I'll fully admit that there are other schools of thought, and obviously this business model does work for them, so I won't criticize it overly much, but I would still think that the 60 or 70 plus packages of DLC are still milking it just a bit. Fred also took a moment to reassure fans of Paradox that he is still very much in control, and this is not Tencent taking over, stating, "I still hold 33.3% in Paradox. I am still the CEO, board member, and avid gamer. All you need to know is that the buck stops here. All problems and feedback can easily be sent my way. I will not always agree, but I promise to listen." So overall, it was a positive step by Paradox to reverse this decision, but given the titanic cost of their already expensive library of DLC, I personally don't believe it was a decision that should have been made to begin with, especially given the severely depressed economic state of some of those countries affected by this. But as always, I am interested in hearing what you all have to think about all of this again, so please do let me know down in the comments below, and again, I do apologize for the delay in getting back to normal content. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha, and I'll see you next time.